Salem can talk now. Salem can talk now. Did you see it? Salem can talk now.
But
we've got our talking cat.
But they didn't even ask the original voice actor. Welcome back to Tea and Toffees, a weekly VTuber podcast. I'm Neitshayd. Hello. The undead demon that got stuck in the mortal world.
And hi, I'm Cecilia, the one who was a witch in her previous life and is now a mortal. Hi.
So,
okay.
Last week we discussed the origins of Sabrina, comic differences, and Sabrina as a character. Also, the origin of Satan the goat.
And there will be a lot more comparisons to original mythologies from Neitshayd this week compared to part 1. So be prepared.
If you already know them and want to skip those parts, I don't mind. I haven't timestamped them though. Sorry, not sorry.
Okay, Salem can talk now. We need to talk about this. If Toffee could talk, what do you think she would say aside from "Mama, food"? Because right now she's also bothering me and wants to get my attention, probably because she wants food.
I have no idea. I do know though what the dog from the human family I previously lived with would say. And it would be, "Human, hi, hello, hi, human, I want to eat, play with me, cuddle me." And I would reply, "Love, you're already 10 years old, you're a grandpa now." And he would say, "But if I act like I'm still 3, you will keep returning to me and pay more attention to me." And he'll be so earnest about it that it will break your fragile little human hearts into millions of pieces.
Now you've made me sad.
Let's change topics then. I alluded to this already. LGBT plus representation in Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. Hey, this show has way better LGBT plus representation than Lucifer. That's an accomplishment. Or not?
Congratulations.
No, actually not really, because Lucifer didn't have any door. So, first one, Ambrose and the Dead Warlock's boy's ex in part 1. Episode 3, I believe. Need I say more? Ambrose is a good example of a character who isn't centered around his not heterosexuality, but kind of complex in his own right, as much as a character in Sabrina can be complex, because they're not at all. And him being pansexual just adds to his character. His relationships are normal, a bit odd, but in the same way everything else about Chilling Adventures of Sabrina is odd, and no one makes a big thing out of it.
And Ambrose also seems to be the one of the more sensible characters in this show. At least he berates Sabrina a bit for her idiocy. But maybe if he wasn't family, he would actually turn away from the hot mess that is this show. But he is family, so he can't do that.
Well, he is still under house arrest during the first part. And then he's allowed to set foot on academy grounds, but still not free. And the moment he can, he leaves to hunt down Blackford. And part 4 was a mess. Anyway, LGBT+. There is Theo, of course, facing all the prejudice and shit for exploring his gender identity and simply wanting to be himself, and later exploring his sexuality as well.
It was nice to see that Theo's friends at least were supportive. That was nice.
Yeah.
Even if the other people weren't so nice about it.
During the second part of our Sandman ramblings, so episode 2 of the podcast, we discussed why the LGBT plus representation in that show was so great. Chaos tackles the topic in a similar fashion. It isn't in your face. There's good and bad, and there's not as much as Sandman had, but that's fine. The show doesn't feature romance all that heavily, thank goodness, outside of Sabrina's love triangle.
Is Sabrina going to choose Harvey or Nick? I don't care. Why not just choose both? Or be your own woman. You don't need a man in your life. Just get yourself an undead demon, even if the demon most likely won't pay rent, and get a cat or multiple cats, and you're good.
Ha! you've done everything right then. Except for the multiple cats part. I have 1.5 cats, and you've only got half. Even if it is half of a very, very fat cat.
One day we will have multiple cats.
Yes, once your crime syndicate earns you enough money to buy us a house. Build us a house, actually.
I still don't have a crime syndicate, but yes, once we have enough money to get a house or a big apartment or something where we have enough space for multiple cats.
So, the love triangle. Did I want to see the love triangle in a polyamory? No, actually, although I'm sure there are people who ship them. I've certainly encountered Nikari shippers online. But I do wish there were more poly relationships of all sorts represented in media, and especially on screen. There's more to poly than simply more than 2 people. And Father Blackwood at one point mentions that witches being polyamorous in the past was a thing, but we sadly don't get to see much of that. Sabrina with the Weird Sisters now, that is a poly relationship I would have loved to see.
Yes, that could have been nice, but they didn't run with it. They needed a love triangle with 2 male love interests.
That's what we have fanfiction for, at least.
Yes.
At least we got that orgy with the Weird Sisters, Ambrose's boy toy, and Nick in part 1. The episode where they wanted to eat Prudence.
Yeah. It's also like, okay, yes, let's decide. They drew lots, but why would it be an honor to be eaten by your fellow witches from your coven? I'm glad that I don't remember all parts of my previous witch life, because I don't remember anything like that being the case in my previous life.
Well,
I'm glad.
Were you a satanic witch in your previous life, or were you another kind of witch?
Another kind of witch.
So then they probably did not condone cannibalism.
Yes. Which I'm thankful for.
Yeah, so we got an orgy, with the orgy thingy. And there is some controversy about teenagers having sex because of weird human maturity body stuff. And how many of the people featured in the scene are actually teenagers? That's the question I will have to pose to the people who had a problem with that, because Ambrose is way over 100, 134 to be exact. And I read somewhere that Prudence and Nick are in their 70s or 80s, and we can assume that Agatha and Dorcas and the pretty boy toy that is Ambrose's boyfriend are also way older. Like, Sabrina is kind of the only one in that scene, and she did not join, so she's the only one who's an actual real teenager. And I mean, the actors are obviously all adults already. So
yeah, you could argue, since witches age slower, that the witches are also still teenagers by witches' standards. That would make them teenagers again.
I suppose. Not Ambrose, though.
No, not Ambrose.
And I like how open the show is about sex in general. So, but yeah, LGBT plus representation was well done. Except for how they handled the jocks who bullied Theo in part 1 and Theo's uncle. And I can't actually tell how well Theo's transition was handled because gender issues elude me. And yes, I look and sound and dress female to you humans, but that doesn't actually make me female. And even if I were to use solely female pronouns, that would still not make me female, or male for that matter, or anything, really. But I suppose humans need their gender stuff because of biology or history or whatever. Funny, isn't it? How I can still discuss LGBT plus labels, none of which would exist without the existence of gender.
Yeah, and you are just whatever.
Yes. Also, I recently discovered that people apparently take issue with being called an it.
Yeah, that probably is like, yes, I'm not an object. I'm a living human being. You can't call me an it.
I don't mind. I'm a demon. And demon is an it. Not all demons are its, I suppose. I'm sure there are demons who also have gender stuff. Anyway. Also, where are the lesbian couples in this show? Like, Zelda and Mambo Marie aren't it. They might not be straight, but they're also not entirely lesbian, and they don't last until the end, and Baron Samedi's identity is never properly explained, and you can get that. I will get more in depth on that later. And also, where are the asexuals? I want more asexuals. And aromantic people. Give me someone who is aromantic and asexual, and give me someone who is only one of those, and give me someone who falls somewhere on the spectrum, and then give me someone who's utterly confused about everything. Anyway. Many say the LGBT plus representation was done well, many others would disagree, so let's move on.
Okay. Let's move on to world building and magic system.
Which is
What do you think about it?
basically non-existent. Ambrose is seen using a wand, but no one else does for some reason. There are inconsistent power levels. If Rose is coming from a family of witches, why does she age? And why does her family age like all other mortals? And yeah.
Maybe they only came up with it in the last season or last part. But that's just a guess on my part.
Yeah, the
Inconsistencies.
The afterlife is a mess. There's no consistency about the different afterlives and where witches go and so on. Rules, but rules. Sabrina can do whatever she wants. Consequences be damned. World building rules be damned. There's too many mythologies and cultures and literatures mixed up. Satanic witches, the Christian god and Lucifer, the pagans, Pan and Hecate and other Greek gods, the fairies or fae that Robin belongs to. There are Lovecraftian horrors, and the Sandman comics also feature many different mythologies, but in my opinion, they weren't featured as prominently. They didn't play as much of an important role as they do in Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, and therefore didn't interfere with each other as much. They were also portrayed more in accordance to the original mythologies and not made into bastardized versions like Chaos did.
Chaos was just like, let's just throw it all in one pot and see what we get.
Yeah, throw it in a pot, put a lid on it, shake it around, shake it some more, see what we get.
Yeah, that's basically what the show did.
Okay, let's pick one of the many mythologies. Hecate. Hecate is never explored at all in the show. They just substituted Dark Lord with Hecate and were done with it. But Hecate and the devil are fundamentally different in both their worship and their aspects, and Hecate is such a fascinating deity. There was so much they could have explored with her. She is the goddess of magic, sorcery, witchcraft, crossroads, the moon, ghosts, and necromancy, in the original sense of divination using the dead. I'm assuming that the resurrection part wasn't part of it back then. Hecate is also an advisor and friend to Persephone in the underworld. She rules over the souls of the departed, is often accompanied by dogs. And the show calls her the triple goddess. And Hecate was not originally, but later in time, ascribed to have either a triple body or triple heads. But she was rarely depicted as the maiden mother crone triple goddess, who is a pagan deity. But the triple goddess may or may not have been based on Hecate. There are myths, though, where Hecate represents the crone aspect of the triple goddess, with Demeter and her daughter Persephone representing the mother and maiden respectively. Which is interesting because Persephone is, well, she's a maiden before she meets Hades, but once she goes to the underworld, she's definitely not a maiden anymore. By the way, isn't Pan a Greek god? Did the coffin kill one of Hecate's fellow gods?
Maybe Hecate wanted Pan dead for whatever reason.
Doubtful. But
so another thing the show just ignored.
Yes. Either way, Hecate is a fascinating Greek goddess. And they could have done so much with her, but they didn't. Let's pick another myth. The Mark of Cain. The mark that Lilith bestows upon Faustus Blackwood in exchange for let's not talk about Lilith's baby, like, at all. No, thank you very much. The Mark of Cain makes it impossible for Blackwood to be killed, but it does not prevent him from being harmed or getting his head cut off and leaving his body to rot. In the Bible, the Mark of Cain was given to the first murderer, Cain, by God, as a sign of divine protection to prevent anyone from killing Cain, so no one may take revenge for his fratricide, killing his brother Abel. If anyone tries to kill Cain, the harm done to him will be returned sevenfold, which doesn't happen in Blackwood's case, notably. And wasn't there someone with the Mark of Cain in the Mortal Instruments? The childhood love interest, what's his name? Simon. I didn't read the books beyond the first volume, but I remember that the Shadowhunters TV series gave him the returning harm sevenfold aspect. And Marcus Pierce, alias Cain, from the Lucifer TV show, obviously bears it too. But like Blackwood's Mark, this one only grants immortality and does not return any harm to him done to whoever attacks him.
Maybe the script writers just wanted an excuse to keep Blackwood alive, because towards the end of the show, he is hated by the audience, at least I hated him, and hated by the characters as well. So everyone is basically just out for blood. But for the sake of the show being all over the place and for just to infuriate people, who care about things like this, they maybe just decided to roll with it and decided, let's just give him the Cain mark and ignore every other aspect of the mythology other than, you can't kill him now.
Yes.
And I would also ask about the whole thing, how did the Covenant plan to get energy from the moon? Because the moon is an object in the sky that reflects sunlight, but since we have mythology in here, aside from just God, heaven, hell, and stuff, and moon goddesses are a thing, as you said, Hecate also represents the moon, I'm just not gonna question it any further. And now, Neitshayd is gonna talk about something that is supposed to be beyond human comprehension, aren't you?
Yes, the Eldritch Terrors. Do we need a definition of Eldritch abominations and Lovecraftian horrors?
I mean, I know, I kind of know what they are, but maybe you should give.
Mr. Dude who was responsible for the plot of this show, do you need a definition? They are Eldritch. The word Eldritch itself already tells you all you need to know. They are other with a capital O. They are beyond mortal comprehension. They are beyond concepts of good and evil. They are fear and terror itself. And Ambrose even tells Sabrina and her friends, they are not monsters. They are entities beyond human comprehension. So there you go, folks. You got the definition right. So why didn't you get the execution right as well, Just
because.
Yeah. They obviously knew what an Eldritch Terror or an Eldritch abomination and Lovecraftian horror was, but they just didn't do it justice.
I suppose you can't actually get something that is beyond human comprehension into a script for a TV show that is written and produced by humans. They are just not able to comprehend what they should have done differently. Maybe that's the reason.
There are ways, though. In the case of Eldritch abominations, it's don't show, don't tell. Don't show the Eldritch beings. Don't tell us what they are. Show us instead the consequences of their presence on the humans. The sheer terror driving the humans insane. Give us actual stakes instead of easily defeated one-episode antagonists. The monsters we see on screen are cool concepts, still badly executed though, but they are not Eldritch abominations. Well, it shouldn't come as a surprise, I suppose, considering all the other things the show got wrong, like the portrayal of the pagans, for example. But yeah. So we got 8 Eldritch Terrors. Why 8? Maybe because of the 8 Sabbats of the pagan wheel of the year. Yule, Imbolg, Ostara, Beltane, Litha, Lunasa or Lammas, Mabon, and Gawain. They represent... Well, some of them we adapted into modern festivals like Easter and Christmas, I suppose, and Halloween and stuff. But those are the original Sabbats.
And here I was thinking that 7 is the magical number, but 8 is apparently also a magical number. And maybe they also just decided to make it 8 Eldritch Terrors because they wanted to make 8 episodes. And as you said, we need an Eldritch Terror for every episode because that just makes so much sense.
About the numbers, it's different for every culture. Depending on the culture, different numbers have different meanings. Like which number represents death is very different for each culture. Anyway, Eldritch Terrors.
4.
For example, 4.
The answer is 4.
Not always, though. Not always.
My answer is 4.
So, the Eldritch Dark, number 1, was darkness, I suppose, which, sure, normal human fear. Seemed to me to be a lot like a metaphor for depression, actually, but they didn't get into that properly, so if it was meant to be a metaphor for depression, they did not go into it enough.
It's like, yeah, this is darkness. Yeah, nothing more. This is darkness.
Why would you be... And it's like, people are not afraid of the dark. They're afraid of what lurks in the dark, usually.
The monsters and the undead demons that lurk in the dark.
Yes.
Mm.
Yes. I do not lurk in the dark. I am the dark. No, I'm not. Anyway, number 2. The poor uninvited was very cute. It was cute. They were cute. The uninvited was cute.
Yes, they were cute. And then they got trapped in a single room for all of eternity.
Poor uninvited. They just wanted to be loved.
He's still uninvited.
So, number 3. The Weird was clearly based on Cthulhu, a name humans and demons alike are unable to pronounce correctly, as it should be. So, Cthulhu, high priest of the great old ones, the sleeping god, described as an octopus, a dragon, and a human caricature, which, by the way, appeared in Afterlife of Archie. The comic Sabrina is derived, Chaos is derived from. And in Afterlife of Archie, Sabrina was sacrificed to Cthulhu as a bride by Dr. Lovecraft and his followers. Anyway, the Weird is based on Cthulhu, but it doesn't do it service. Also, an episode featuring the ultimate body horror, pregnancy, and giving birth. So, might have been the most horrifying of them all, for me at least.
That wasn't... haven't we seen pregnancy and childbirth in previous episodes?
We did?
Like with...
We did?
With Lady Blackboard had twins.
No!
You remember?
Don't, no! Get it away from me! Get it, no. Get
it closer to you. Talk more about it.
Okay. So, The Imp of the Perverse is a story by Edgar Allan Poe. According to Wikipedia, yes, I'm admitting it, for this one I used Wikipedia, but not for the others. So according to Wikipedia, it draws a metaphor about the urge to do the wrong thing in a given situation, just because you can. I know the feeling well.
I know that feeling too.
Like the urge to laugh and walk away instead of comforting your friend.
Excuse me?
Yes.
Excuse me?
Yes, I get that urge very often. But as you know, I usually stay to comfort you, or try to anyway. Maybe also comparable to the way some people with fear of heights being actually not afraid of the high altitude itself and instead fear getting the urge to jump down.
Oh, don't give in to the voices in your head. As a child, I wasn't afraid of heights, but then sometimes later on I felt a bit uncomfortable when confronted with heights. But after I actually learned that, that I'm not afraid of the height in itself, but it's rather like the fearing the voices in your head that that is the actual reason, I was fine with heights again, because I was like, I know that I'm not gonna actually jump, so why should I be afraid of this? And also, do you remember the clip on Twitter with the young woman at the edge of a really high but also really beautiful waterfall?
Yes. Yes, I remember that. The voices would be very loud if we were there.
Oh, yes.
Wikipedia also tells me that Poe actually used a similar example, looking down into an abyss. The logical decision would be to step back from the danger, but what would it feel like to jump from such a height? And the thought alone makes us desire it, to jump down and see what it feels like. But I don't see the metaphor used anywhere in the Sabrina episode. So there's that. And something that gets mentioned in the episode is the Stone of Omphalos, which is obviously derived from Greek mythology, but there are two stones. And it can describe either the stone that marks the center of the world, not the center of reality as such, or the stone that Rhea gave to her husband and brother, Kronos, tricking him into believing it was his son Zeus, which he then swallowed because he was like, need to swallow my son. And she was like, no. Here, this is totally your son, not a stone I disguised. This is your son. Anyway.
This is your son. This is not a stone.
Yeah, patricide in this case is a common theme among Greek mythology, so every father fears his son killing him, so Kronos feared his son would kill him, so he tried to kill his son first, and Zeus later also has that fear, and happens a lot.
Lovely family dynamics.
Greek mythology is super fascinating. Human history is boring, but Greek mythology? Yes. That's cool. So, yeah, at one point, Sabrina mentions this book, Hexan or something, as a code word for the resistance, which sounds a lot like Hexen, the German word for witches. And another piece from this episode, I wonder who the Trinket Man is. And I'm glad we didn't get an explanation for that, because the show would have totally messed that up, but really cool.
Probably.
Really cool character. Mysterious, love it. And yeah, I have been told that humans find the imp's ability to rewrite their memories in fable very terrifying.
Yes, they do find that rather terrifying. But I would also want to ask a question like, how can you be the emperor of a town or a city? But then I look back at the boring human history and Rome and the general nonsensical stuff this show does, and I'm just not gonna ask about it. Let's just continue with the next being, the cosmic.
The consequence of Sabrina creating a time paradox.
You have probably already noticed that we decided to not talk about the whole time travel shit and shenanigans. Yeah. If you asked me, the time travel is just a can of worms, and if you want to listen to someone talking about time travel, there are enough podcasts and YouTube videos and articles and book and whatnot out there doing a very good job. So we are just not going to talk about it.
Yes, that would probably make 4 whole episodes, and I don't feel like doing that. So the cosmic is technically not an Eldritch Terror, but they said that would be it, and the rest only adds up to 7. So also, who does the angel? The angel Metatron reminds me of someone, but they were going on about order. Oh, the pink toad, Dolores Umbridge. There will be order. Yes, that's what the angel reminds me of.
There will be order.
Now, did Umbridge actually say that, or was that just the little toy the Weasleys had in their shop?
I can also see her actually saying that. I don't remember, because that line is just like, from the Weasley twins shop, but she was always going on about order. I think she, at least in the movie, she was like, yeah, there will be order at one point during the movie. Surely she said it at one point. Yes. But we can't have order in this show. The show is called Chaos, after all. And this show is all about chaos. So let's bring the dead back, shall we?
With Eldritch Terror number 6, The Returned. Is it just me, or is Mambo Marie's accent a bit inconsistent? I can't really tell for sure, but it sounds different compared to earlier scenes in the show, on this one.
I have no clue. I don't know.
So, Lazarus? Lazarus is a figure that appears in the New Testament of the Bible. He was a friend of Jesus and succumbed to illness and then was resurrected by Jesus 4 days after his death. So that's a little tidbit. Another mythology, because Chilling Adventures of Sabrina doesn't have enough yet. And, oh dear, please forgive me for my butchered pronunciations. Baron Samedi, a deity rooted in Haitian voodoo. He is, or they, I should say, they are a lure that guides the dead to the afterlife and watches over the underworld, but also protects the living. They decide who dies and who doesn't and ensure no dead return as zombies, but they also possess the ability to heal sicknesses and wounds. Baron Samedi is occasionally portrayed as trans. As far as my research came up with, both as a trans man and or a trans woman. They are just as often gender fluid, also bisexual, like to wear women's skirts, and they smoke. Very eccentric entity overall. I really like them. Maybe we'll have a chat one day. And if you know all this, great character. But the show, for one, had zero foreshadowing for that specific twist, and they did not take the time at all to properly explain who Baron Samedi is. So a lot of people got mad about how the character and its portrayal in regards to LGBT plus representation were handled. And yeah, like I said, great character, great backstory, very, very interesting mythology, and the show just didn't handle it well, like so many other things. A lot of lost potential. Question. If Mambo Marie was Baron Samedi all along, why did she or they die in the original timeline?
I have no clue. Again.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Moving on. This episode also gives us another instance of menacing Satan. Unable to drag a metal band back to hell, pouting and acting all whiny and childish like the devil Wait, that doesn't sound right.
The whiny and childish devil kind of reminds me a bit of the Lucifer from the Lucifer TV show.
Yes, but he was supposed to be the ultimate evil in the first season.
Yeah, he was, and then turns out he isn't. He is a background character.
So, Episode 7, Eldritch Terror number 7, The Endless. Not the Sandman entities, sadly, but made for a great episode regardless. Talking Salem.
Yes, we got our talking cat. I loved that.
And according to the internet, the Zelda and Hilda actors from the 1996 TV show Sabrina the Teenage Witch, which neither of us have watched, played their roles again, you could say, in this one. Salem, unfortunately, though, did not get his 90s voice actor. The showrunners apparently didn't even ask the man who originally voiced Salem, which, why? Anyway.
Wow.
Also, someone says, Mr. Saberhagen, I'm so sorry, it's her first day to Salem after Sabrina Morningstar's first scene on set, which was an obvious hint about Salem being in charge that went right over Sabrina's head. And
of course it did.
Yeah. Salem's last name, Saberhagen, came about in the 1996 TV show, and then also was retconned into the comic version. And what I find interesting in this episode is the differences between the characters, like the two Sabrinas, and the way the actress portrays them both. Interesting. They are similar, but not identical, though Well, anyway, so I like that with all the characters. We see a very cheery director Faustus Blackwood. Found that interesting. And
Yes.
all the other characters, it's good acting, you could say, but I do have to mention, or say at this point, that I would have loved to see Sabrina Morningstar being a little bit more different compared to Sabrina Spellman, especially in earlier episodes of the season where we see her interact, or the two Sabrinas interact with each other. It's like one Sabrina went through all the shit with everyone being dead thanks to the pagans and time travel stuff and this and that. And the other Sabrina just got to enjoy being Queen of Hell, and there should be more differences between them, I think. But still, we get to see some differences.
Because if you go through all of that stuff, and she was like, yeah, she even said like, yeah, I don't want to continue with all this shit. You can be Queen of Hell if you want to. You would think that they would be quite different at this point. And also not look exactly the same, because how long did that take to go through all that shit? I don't know. But yes, witches age slow, and maybe even more so for the daughter of the devil. So, can't really complain.
And time is not linear, and hell has some time stuff issues and whatever. Anyways, so
time paradox.
Yeah, that as well. What else about this? Oh yeah, the green room, full of gory human parts, and also the last part of that episode was full of bloody murders. I loved that.
Of course you do.
Yeah. Oh, also, the 1996 Zelda and Hilda's monster forms remind me of the comic, the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina comic, which is True Forms. Their true appearances look a lot like the monster-ons in this episode. Moving on to the last one. Number 8, The Void. Was not scary at all, the way they portrayed it. More lost potential. Like everything in this show. Okay, random chaotic thoughts, let's go. How did Blackwood's cult suddenly get so many members?
Magic.
Did Blackwood call himself Reverend Lovecraft before? Where did he even get that name? I'm curious.
I have no clue.
Also, 3 couples in the same room making out can only be either extremely awkward or have a lot of poly undertones, and I think the scene falls under the former. Which?
Yes.
Why? And also, poor Sabrina Morningstar, you deserved a better death. Trinket Man, hi! Welcome back. And Pandora's box. Alright, wanna get into more mythology? Because I haven't rambled about enough myths so far. Last one, I promise.
Okay, let's hear it then.
So, this box, the Trinket Man tells Sabrina, belonged to a daughter of the gods, Pandora, and it supposedly contained all evils, all terrors of the universe. Apparently now that it's empty, it works like a black hole, sucking everything into it when opened. Originally, Pandora's box was a large jar, but it got turned into a box due to mistranslations. And yeah, Pandora was the first woman on Earth, created by the gods from clay, similar to Eve in Christian scriptures, at least the first woman part. The clay part kind of reminds me of Caliban.
Me too.
And yeah, Caliban is based on a Shakespeare character, and many creating life from clay myths. Also, Shakespeare Caliban's witch mother, Sycorax, also appears as a character in Chilling Adventures of Sabrina as a hedge witch. She has no relation to Caliban in the show, but a little bit. So, back to Pandora. Pandora was a punishment. A punishment for Prometheus giving fire to humanity. Words, word jumble. So, Prometheus giving fire to humanity is another myth that people can look up if they don't already know about it. They may want to look it up, it's quite interesting. Pandora originally did not have a jar full of evils. It was added in later versions of the myth. So, Pandora, beautiful Pandora, in one of the myths, was given a jar containing special gifts from the gods and told not to open it and then she was brought to Prometheus' brother, who married her against all warnings. After accepting her, Pandora scattered the special gifts from her jar, and only hope remained inside. There is no reason given as to why she scattered those special gifts. We don't know whether she did it out of curiosity, unknowing, or malice, knowing full well what was inside. And yes, I checked that. It's the third poem in Hesiod's Works and Days. The version without the jar is from the same author in Theogony. Both also contain Prometheus' myth. So, in later, more popular versions, Pandora really did not know what was inside and eventually gave in to her curiosity and opened the box, unleashing all evils, illnesses, and countless plagues to the world. Panicking, Pandora then closed the box, or jar, and trapped the last gift, hope, inside. Or, perhaps, some scholars say, the jar could have also contained all the good and positive attributes instead, and hope was the last one left to humanity. So, humanity only has hope left for itself. Anyway, so much for myths. Back to some chaotic random thoughts. Blackwood. How did your body heal from rot and decay? Why is it still working? How can you be comfortable living in it again? That's kind of disturbing.
Magic? Magic is the answer to everything.
Isn't it always with bad screenwriting?
Yes.
Next one.
At least in a show where you have magic. Because if you're in a show that doesn't have magic as a thing going on, you can't put off bad script writing just as magic.
It's bad script writing either way.
Yes.
Magic can be well done, but this show did not do it. Does the Cain bit not work anymore? Or is it just Sabrina the exception to everything?
The show ends, so it's obviously not working anymore. Because that makes perfect sense.
Mm-hmm. And the ending was horribly bad. There's nothing else to say about that.
No, there really isn't.
Oh well.
Okay, show ends. Closing notes?
Closing notes. I think Chilling Adventures of Sabrina kind of went the same direction as the Riverdale TV show went at some point. From potential for greatness to descending into utter madness and insanity. Although chaos is not as extreme in that regard as Riverdale.
Well, exactly why I've never started watching Riverdale. Because I was told that the later seasons are bad.
I watched it because of Jughead. Then they made Jughead fall in love and have sex, and I still watched it for reasons that are beyond me. And then it got to a point where I just couldn't stand it anymore. Unfortunate. So,
unfortunate.
Season 1 of Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. That is parts 1 and 2 weren't that bad, but season 2 really went off the rails. Then again, you just can't take Sabrina seriously. Part 1, 2, 3, 4, it doesn't matter. I just can't take this show seriously. Most of the major and minor plots, episode-specific plots especially, are just so ridiculous and logic-defying, and many of the subplots are often also kind of unnecessary, and The Sandman, which is still great, had interwoven storylines that worked very well in tandem with each other as well as independently. The Netflix show even more so than the comics. Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, on the other hand, drops and picks up storylines willy-nilly, forgetting about them for several episodes and then suddenly bringing them back for convenience, for convenient twists and explanations, and yeah.
This show is a hot mess.
Yes.
Hot potato. I still want my hot potato with sour cream.
But we don't have any potatoes.
Sad.
I can make you some hot rice.
Sure. With veggies, please.
Yes.
And chili sauce.
Yes.
And yes, Toffee, darling, you will get something to eat as well soon.
It's not time yet. She still has half an hour to wait.
Yes, but she wants my attention and wants me to go into the hallway with her and go into the kitchen to give her something. Or she just wants the cake that I still have on my desk.
It's good cake, even though it's too sweet for my liking.
Yes.
Next time I'm never going to bake it again. Next time I will bake something that's not as sweet. Anyway, all in all, Chilling Adventures of Sabrina is a poorly written, cheesy show for teenagers that we're definitely too old for. You're too old for it, and you're still young in my eyes, and I'm just ancient. So, although I'm not
ancient undead demon.
Yes. Although I'm not sure whether a show that is better suited for teenagers rather than anyone over the age of 18 should contain so much blood, gore, sex, and casual graphic murders. It's as if they got their intended audiences all mixed up.
Would be fitting if they actually did that.
That being said, I did actually enjoy watching Chilling Adventures of Sabrina a lot, good show or not.
It was certainly entertaining.
Alright. Viewers, listeners, if you made it this far, congratulations, and thank you. Next episode, we will not cover a Netflix show for once.
Oh, would you look at that? We are going to talk about the Pokemon franchise.
Yes.
Yeah. In the meantime, you can find us on Twitter at TNToffies, and for the YouTube watchers, we are also on Spotify.
And if you're listening on Spotify, we're also on YouTube at TNToffies.
And if you enjoyed this episode, as we hope you did, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell.
As always, we will see you next week. Bye.
Bye.